Sometimes you need to create a unique code for a list of products or students or patients or any other work situation. Having a unique identifier for each record is very important in Excel, in Access, in data modeling, and in Power BI. I am Nabil Murad. In this tutorial, I show you how to create a unique alphanumeric code with a predictable pattern that takes its structure from your data while being sequential without any duplicates. Adding more records to the source results in automatically generating the new codes. I'm using Microsoft 365 with Excel dynamic array functions. So let's see how to do that in Excel. Here is my finished project. In this worksheet, I have a table named Data, and this table consists of two columns, a column for the full name and a column for the state. And my goal is to create a code like the one you see in column D, where I'm combining the first character of the first name, the last name, and the state, then a dash, and a sequential number consisting of 4 digits. If I scroll to the bottom of the table, and I have some extra records, I can select them, and then I can drag them to the bottom of the table. They become part of the table, and automatically the corresponding code is generated. I start my project by going to the Start worksheet. You can download the exercise file and read the step-by-step instructions by clicking on the link in the description below the video. I'm going to break down the logic of this project into 2 parts. In column F, I'll be extracting the characters, and then in column G, I'll be creating a column of sequential number. Then I'll be combining both of them in one single function. To extract the characters, I start by combining the full name, first name, last name, along with the state, separated by spaces. And I use a text join function to do that, equal text join. And then I hit tab. What's your delimiter? I need a space, double quote, space, double quote. I type a comma. I want to ignore empty cell, then I type another comma. And then for the text, I'm selecting the first row of my data table. When I close the bracket and hit enter, I would have combined the name with the state. I want to separate them in memory into 3 columns. Then I use a text split function to do that. I put my function in the edit mode F2, and I wrap my text join function in a text split function. So I type text split, and then I hit the tab key. This is my text, the text join function. I type a comma. What's the column delimiter? I want a space, double quote, space, double quote. I close the bracket, and when I hit enter, I would have separated the first name from the last name from the state. My next step is to extract the first character of each one of the 3 columns. Then I put my function in the edit mode F2, and I wrap the text split function in a left function. I type left, I hit tab. I want left of all these functions. I want just one character. Then I click at the end, I type a comma 1, and then I close the bracket, and I would have extracted the first character. I want to join them back together, so I put my function in the edit mode F2, and I wrap the left function in another text join function. Then I type text join. I hit the tab key. What's your delimiter? I type double quote, double quote. I type a comma, and to ignore empty cells, I type another comma, and at the end, I close the bracket for my second text join function. When I hit enter, I would have extracted and combined the first character of each one of the name and the state. My next step will be expanding these functions to each row. Then I put my function in the edit mode F2, and I use a by row function. And I type by row, and then I hit tab. By row of what? I select the entire table, the data table, and then I type a comma, and the by row function is a lambda helper function. Then I type lambda, and then I hit tab. The lambda function requires a parameter. I will name it x. You can name it whatever you want, and then it requires a function. and this function will be the combination of functions that I created before. But because I'm using X and X represents each row in the data table, then I want to replace this part, data at, by typing X. I click at the end. I close the bracket for the lambda function. I close the bracket for the by row function. And when I hit enter, the function spills to the adjacent cells for all the records in the data table. My next step will be creating a column of sequential number, and I'll be doing this in cell G2. To do that, I need to use a sequence function, and I type equal sequence, and then I hit tab. The sequence function asks how many rows you want. Then I want to count the name column. Then I'll be using a count A function. Count A, and then I hit tab. I hover over the name column. I click to select the entire column. I close the bracket for the count A function. Then I type comma. How many columns you want? I type 1, comma. What's your start number? 1. I type comma. And what's the step? It's 1. I close the bracket for the sequence function. And when I hit enter, I would have created a column of sequential number for each one of the rows. But because I want my number to consist of 4 digits, then I'm going to edit my function. I put it in the edit mode, and I wrap the sequence function in a text function. I type text, and then I hit tab. I click at the end, and in double quotation for the format, I'll be typing 4 zeros. And I close the double quotation, and I close the bracket for the text function. When I hit enter, I get the column of sequential numbers consisting of 4 digits. This is the concept I'll be using for building a single cell report. To make my life easier, I'm going to copy these 2 functions that I created, and I'll save them to the Office clipboard. I select the first function, and from the formula bar, I can copy it without the equal sign. I click on the copy command, and I click on this dialog box launcher to open the Office clipboard. I hit escape, and I want to copy the second function from cell G2. I copy it without the equal sign. I click on the copy command, and I have the 2 functions in the Office clipboard. Let's close the Office clipboard for now. I hit escape. I can delete these 2 functions. This was just for demonstrating the concept, and I hit the delete key. I select cell D2 where I'll be creating my project, and I expand the formula bar, Ctrl-Shift-U to expand it, and I'll be combining all these functions inside the let function. Equal let, and then I hit tab. The let function allows me to create variables and assign names to these variables. To move to the next line to improve the legibility of the function, I hit Alt-Enter, and I create my first variable. I name it A, and then I type a comma. The variable A will be storing the entire column of names. I hover over the header name, and I give it a click, and I would have selected it. I type a comma, then I hit Alt-Enter to move to the next line. I create my second variable B. I type a comma. B will be counting how many records do we have, and I'll be using a count A function to do that. I type count A, and I hit tab. I can use the name of the variable A instead of selecting the column one more time. I type A, and I close the bracket. I type a comma, and then I hit Alt-Enter to move to the next line. My next variable will be C, and I type a comma. C will be storing the entire data table. Then I hover over the corner of my table. When I see the rotated black arrow, I give it a click, and I would have selected the entire table. I type another comma. I hit Alt-Enter to move to the next line. My next variable will be named D, comma, and the variable D will be returning the column of sequential numbers. That's the combination of text and sequence function, and I already have it in my Office clipboard. Then I reopen the Office clipboard, and I click on the text function to insert it at this position. Instead of the count A data name, I can replace all this part with my variable B. I type B, and then at the end I type a comma, I hit Alt-Enter to move to the next line, and my next variable will be named E. I type a comma, and this variable will be returning the abbreviated characters, which is the first character of the name and the state. That's my by-row function that I created and I saved to the Office clipboard. I'm going to paste it at this position, and instead of using data, I can replace it with my variable C. I click at the end, I type a comma, I hit Alt-Enter to move to the next line, and the last variable I'll be creating, I will call it F, and then I type a comma. F will be putting side by side the characters and numbers, and to do that, I need an hstack function. I type hstack, and then I hit Tab. What do you want to join? I want the characters, the variable E, comma, and the numbers, the variable D. I close the bracket, and then I type a comma, I hit Alt-Enter, and now I'm in the last argument of the let function. What do you want to do? I want to join E and D with a dash in between, but I want to do that for each row. Then I'll be using a by-row function. I type by-row, I use the variable F, that will be the array, and then I type a comma, and the by-row function is a lambda helper function. Then I type lambda, and then I hit Tab. It requires a variable. I'm going to name it X. You can name it whatever you want. And what do you want to do for each row? I would like to join the result returned by the variables E and D. Then I'm going to use a text join function. I type text join, and then I hit Tab. What's your delimiter? I want a dash, double quote, dash, double quote, and then I type a comma and another comma to ignore the empty cells. And finally, what's the text? I want each X in the variable F. Then I type X, and now I close the bracket for the text join function. I close the bracket for the lambda function. I close the bracket for the by-row function, and I close the bracket for the let function. When I hit enter, I would have created the required code with the pattern coming from the data and the sequential number. There are no duplicates in this code. I can collapse the formula bar by using the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-U. I can close the Office clipboard, and I want to test by adding more records. I scroll down to the bottom of the table. I have more records. I select them by hitting Ctrl-A. I drag them up so that they become part of the table. Automatically, the code has been generated, and I finished creating my project. If you found value in this tutorial, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to my channel to be notified when new tutorials are released. The best is yet to come. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.